Good morning. Welcome to everybody to the uHoo Aura launch. We have a great audience today. We have excellent speakers. We welcome you very much to this amazing event. I'm looking forward to hear the speakers that we have today. Our first part of the program, we will have a quick introduction by Dustin Ong Seng, the co-founder and CEO of uHoo. And I think we have a bit of background noise now. Maybe if Ivan can mute himself. And yes, I would like to hand over for a quick introduction to Dustin, the CEO and co-founder of uHoo. Good morning, Dustin.
All right. Thank you, Matthias. Good morning, everybody, to those who are in Asia, and good evening to those who are in the United States and Canada. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for joining this event. I'd also like to thank our speakers who came on board for this and our guests. So we started uHoo with the mission of improving lives, health and well-being globally. We wanted to make sure that everybody has a healthier lifestyle, both in the home and in the workplace. So this idea of uHoo started when my co-founder, Brian, and I met during our MBA program. And when we were in school, inside the dormitories, we often had our allergy attacks. So I have allergic rhinitis. My co-founder, Brian, has asthma. And we felt that whenever we were inside the dormitories or inside a school building, we would have more allergies compared to when we were outdoors. And this is when the whole idea of you can only manage what you measure dawned on us. And that's when we started to think about what we can do to improve the indoor space, not only for ourselves, but also for everybody else. And so 1 year into the MBA program, both of us decided to just drop our classes and start the company. So that's what happened. And it took us 3 years of R&D before we were able to launch the product in late 2017. And today, 3 years later, while we were in the market, we were already serving tens and thousands of customers all over the world. And all through these past years, when we've been talking and learning more about the market and our customers and what their needs and wants are, we also learned how to develop the product further so that we can serve our customers better. So some examples of case studies where we were able to help our customers would be in the Netherlands, wherein they had a number of their tenants feeling dehydrated, getting a sore throat, feeling sick inside their buildings. And by understanding how to monitor and manage their air quality, they were able to reduce 95% of all of these complaints. And they were able to retain all of their tenants inside the building instead of cutting the rental contract and moving to a different building. We also worked with a developer in Singapore, wherein we were able to help identify issues with their BMS and their thermostats that allowed them to reduce the discomfort that their own employees are feeling. And eventually, by optimizing that system, they were also able to save energy. So it's really all about how do we help improve the environment within the space. And at the same time, by doing that, we're also able to help improve energy saving. So it also makes the space greener, not only healthier. But we know that there's more that we can do. And after conversations with our customers, we learned what other needs and wants that they have. And this is the reason why we developed a new product that we would be launching today. And yeah, so we will be doing the big reveal later after all the speeches by our distinguished guests. So I'd like to thank our partners, our clients, our speakers, and everybody here for joining the event. So I'd like to pass it back to Matthias so we can start the program.
Great. Thank you so much, Dustin. A happy occasion today, a launch. We will hear more about that later on, the new innovative aspects of the new product. And I have the great pleasure, first, ladies first. Later on, we have a panel with all the gentlemen that you can see, Ivan, Jack, and Raymond. But we will start off with Carmen and Angela. I had the pleasure of listening to Carmen's talk already yesterday. I'm really looking forward to this. You can see she is having the wonderful, healthy beach with healthy air at the background. And this is as well the amazing aspect of uHoo. It came from personal suffering, personal experience. There is a problem. We have an amazing solution now to help us with healthier and more productive spaces. I would like to introduce Carmen. She is the CEO and founder of Menarco Development Corporation. She spearheaded the development of the multi-awarded and multi-certified Menarco Tower in 2017, a corporate office landmark that is considered the healthiest and safest building and one of the greenest in Southeast Asia. It is the first and only well-certified gold building in the region. Loads of track record, Carmen. I will hand over to you. We're looking forward to your presentation. You're still on mute.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you repress the button again, I think, after you're still on mute. Maybe someone can unmute Carmen. Or maybe if you see the microphone button in front of you on the screen, you can try and press it. Yeah, what I suggest maybe we can try and have an
Okay, there you go. Sorry. What a great beginning. Some suspense, right? So I hope is my mic on now?
Works perfectly.
All right. Okay. So let me share my screen. However, it won't. Sorry, there is a panel here and it won't go out. Post. Okay, there you go. All right. Good morning and good evening, everybody. Thank you for the invitation, Dustin, and the beautiful introduction, Matthias. So I'm here to speak about healthy buildings and investing in them. So can you see my screen? Yes? Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about good health, good business, and, why go healthy? Actually, the question is so easy to answer. It's really why not? But let me begin, as Matthias said, with a personal example. It was Christmas 2000, unforgettable for me. The season I stayed up all night, attacked by the invisible, ribs, abdominal sore, beaten up by an incessant cough. I searched for Manila's best pulmonologist, who shocked me by concluding that I had bronchitis, borderline asthma. Asthma? I never had lung problems in my life, and I jumped to asthma. My passionate doctor provided a Pollution 101 explanation with statistics on Manila's worsening air quality and the shocking number of healthy Filipinos like me who would develop asthma because of it. I didn't want to be a statistic, so we spent time near the sea for fresher air. Equipped with an inhaler, which I rarely needed after the second day, my lungs eventually healed. I have only become wiser as the years went by, realizing that my choices defined my health. So, clean air, much like clean water and clean shelter, clean air is a human right. We breathe 15,000 liters of air each day, consuming 4 times more air than food and liquid together. So if we care about what we eat and what we drink, then I think we should prioritize that our air is as fresh as can be. So as a wellness advocate turned real estate developer, my maiden project was Menarco Tower, now the poster child for healthy buildings in Southeast Asia. Multi-awarded, internationally recognized, officially the healthiest building in the region. Menarco is the first and only double gold certified in both WELL and LEED, plus Menarco carries the much coveted WELL Health Safety Rating, attesting to our building's resiliency, our commendable operations against emergencies and disasters, including the battle against COVID. I'm often asked what makes a building healthy. So, according to a recently published book by Joseph Allen from the Harvard School of Public Health, these are the 9 foundations of a healthy building. You can see them on your screen. Complementing this is the healthy building standard, which Menarco Tower is certified gold in. So just quickly, so you can get the feel of how these concepts apply to real spaces, I just want to share that Menarco's air is well ventilated, fresh, and filtered by MERV 13 filters. Our fresh water is potable. Our areas enjoy 97% sunshine without the heat, contributing to happy hormones. We have nourishing food choices offered at our food hall, the yard. And pandan tea is served from our garden, lowering blood sugar levels. Pilates, yoga, spinal care, cardio activities are offered on our wellness floor. Mental health is supported by museum quality Philippine contemporary art. There's also music in our lobby and in our naturally lit fire staircase to encourage movement. Community boosting activities like life talks and Red Cross blood donation drives happen. We go the extra mile with Menarco care activities or advisories to help people understand COVID better. And even while our tenants are away, Menarco is hard at work maintaining our Well Gold certified building. So, why did I invest in health? Well, first, investing in health is good for the people. In Menarco, we prioritize people and planet, and profit, while important, is not our God. And because of our convictions as a healthy building developer, we have witnessed gentle positive changes in our people when we moved to a healthy building, like Menarco Tower. They came to work with more energy. Some realized they had never even taken a sick day off. They were more present, more engaged, and overall more productive. Our experience at Menarco Tower gives credence to global healthy performance indicators as well. Extensive research shows that healthy spaces lead to increased productivity, higher mental function and memory, more calls processed, faster learning, even contributing to longer sleep. So generally put, wellness in the workplace leads to productive workers, which translates to corporate value creation. So that leads me to my second point. Investing in health is not only good for the people, but it's good for business. It creates value for your company. In his 2021 message to global CEOs, BlackRock's Larry Fink, the world's largest investor of $9 trillion, reveals that it pays to invest in sustainable businesses and consequently in health. Menarco's healthy spaces progression resonates with these global environmental, social, and governance issues. ESG is a broad framework for long-term growth. E, environmental criteria, includes the natural resources we take in and the waste we discharge, the resources we need, and its consequences for humanity, like climate change or carbon emissions, for example. Every company uses energy. Every company affects and is affected by the environment. S is for social criteria, and it addresses the relationships we foster internally and externally, the reputation we carry with people and institutions in the communities that we do business. Lastly, G, governance, is an internal system of practices, controls, and procedures that we take in Menarco. Menarco delicately balances these elements so that we can continue to do well and do good. Good ESG translates to good financial performance, higher equity returns, better valuation multiples, reduction in downside risk. Higher profitability also through lower consumption of resources, of course. Menarco, for example, uses 65% less water and about 24% less electricity than other base buildings. Benefits also trickle down to our tenants. One reported saving 62% in energy expenses compared to their previous building. Being a responsible company also leads to lower cost of capital, lower loan rates, translating to higher corporate value. So our healthy building strategies and healthy building investments clearly show that Menarco follows long-term strategies rather than short-termism. We invest more upfront, but recoup our investment in healthy building upgrades, typically over 5 years. As a responsible business leader, it's a moral imperative, a part of Menarco's ethos to invest in health because it's good for the people, it's good for business, and we contribute to a stronger economy, which brings me to my last point about investing in health. It's good for your country and our world. Healthy buildings are a public health obligation. In this pandemic, we realize more than ever that the action of one person can affect not only his community, but the whole world. Harvard research shows that more than a doctor, your environment, specifically your property manager, determines the state of your health, how the air conditioning system is maintained, what chemicals are used to clean, the water filtration capacity. All these affect your body and are reasons for your lack of vitality or your wellness, just like what Dustin mentioned as the reason for him to start uHoo. So let's say you are convinced and you want to invest in healthy spaces. Well, what would be the most pressing issue or aspect today? Personally, I think I'd focus more on clean air, specifically because indoor air quality and ventilation is so crucial because we spend 99% of our time indoors. And air quality is directly related to what we are all most concerned with right now, which is COVID containment and virus transmission. Our built environment has a leading role in supporting the health of our community. If managed poorly, buildings can spread diseases. And if managed well, we can help control the virus. As a well health safety rated building, Menarco learns that science and evidence-based protocols before it even gets launched. We are supported by the world's leading health experts. So even as COVID mutates, there is one thing that remains true. Cleaner air reduces the possibility of infection. Research shows that first, communities with the poorest level of air quality have the highest transmission and death. Second, COVID dies in specific environments, such as 40 to 60% humidity, a temperature of between 19 to 24 degrees Celsius, and particulate matter levels below 2.5. So research also tells us that there are certain things that help our immunity. People remain well in spaces where carbon dioxide is below 800 and nitrogen dioxide is below 53 parts per billion. You can only imagine, as someone who is not really an architect or an engineer, I did not know what that all meant. And the biggest challenge to me and to Menarco was how to make the invisible visible so we could achieve these optimal levels. And it was when I was asking this question that I serendipitously met Dustin, founder of uHoo, and tried their indoor air quality sensors. So I just want to briefly share our experience so you hear firsthand from an actual, honest, transparent developer how it works. Well, first, we used their indoor air quality device and made the invisible visible. And real-time data is read by Menarco's maintenance team and interpreted to address minor concerns before they disrupt operations or cause adverse reactions to our occupants. One of our first issues that we had to tackle was the temperature in the lobby. We first placed an indoor air quality sensor and happily saw that our air quality readings were excellent. But our lobby temperature registered a 26 to 28 degree temperature, despite the thermostat being set at 23 degrees. We never really knew it was a problem. Nobody ever complained. So recognizing that our temperature was beyond the ideal range, our engineering team set to work. First, the air conditioning system was checked for leaks and resealed. The indoor temperature barely changed. Then the refrigerant was recharged. We still hadn't reached our ideal temperature. And another leak test was done, and on and on. With each tweak, the uHoo device indicated our progress as detectives of our own building's dilemmas. Eventually, the team deduced that the imbalance in the refrigerant pressure contributed to the high temperature and successfully addressed it. So today, Menarco's lobby is within optimal range. So next, in one of the offices, a high carbon dioxide level had registered. We learned that the workers did not turn on the fresh air fan because it was noisy. So we didn't even know it wasn't on. Acoustic comfort was prioritized by them without realizing the effect of carbon dioxide on the body. Menarco's engineering team checked the hangar support and as a possible source of noise, they calibrated it and voila. Since then, the staff has kept the fresh air fans on and carbon dioxide has been at an optimal level for us. Lastly, the third issue happened in our command center. We couldn't understand that why, despite our excellent readings, the carbon dioxide levels would spike at certain times of the day. Data is data, and it only becomes useful information when interpreted. As our team investigated further, they realized that the increase occurred during shift turnovers of our housekeeping and our security staff. The room would become overcrowded, resulting in higher CO2 emissions. So as a thoughtful response, Menarco's shift turnovers have been moved to a naturally ventilated space where safer physical distancing is observed. And our CO2 level ultimately remains below 800. A new feature I'm so happy to see is the virus index feature, and this informs us of the space's susceptibility to COVID. Just from our experience at Menarco, our reading is normally green and optimal, as you see here. We've had a few individual cases of COVID, but because of the protection provided by our healthy building and being a low-density corporate premium tower, the case has always remained singular at 1, with no community transmission. So in summary, the indoor air quality sensors has been a helpful tool in 2 basic ways. First, allowing Menarco to see the invisible, supporting our operations team to manage the building better using a data-driven management system instead of gut feel. And second, it equips us to maintain safe spaces and healthy tenants as a testament to our WELL Gold certification and WELL Health Safety rating. So in conclusion, at Menarco, we do what we can with what we have in our third world country, the Philippines. We stand by our principles, which guide our daily decisions. You can trust that we will do right by you, and we hope that you will also do the same in your sphere of influence. I never thought that I would say this, but I actually thank God for that Christmas cough that wouldn't go away. It's true. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that cough at a very young age helped me realize that health is truly wealth and that we have the power to keep well depending on the choices we make. So as for me and Menarco, we choose to be part of the solution and not the problem. At Menarco, we choose daily not to let this crisis go to waste. And I hope that you join us in the Global Healthy Building Initiative as we take care of each other with thoughtful decisions, putting we before me. And at Menarco, you can rest assured we walk the talk and place you above all. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. What a powerful personal sharing experience and corporate case study experience with amazing benefits, financial benefits, personal benefits. I want to one day work in your office, Carmen. Please invite me. Without further ado, yes, excellent. I'm looking forward to that. Now I want to introduce Angela, our second speaker. Angela is all the way from Singapore, but currently based in the US, I think. Thanks for getting up at or staying up late, right? Angela is a principal and regional managing director for Asia Pacific at HKS, a founding director of HKS Singapore. Angela helped design award-winning medical projects of all sizes. She's a recognized thought leader. She's often asked to serve as a juror in design competitions and speak at health, technology, and design events. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you. A little embarrassing, but you know, by nature, we build hospital and I do design a lot of healthcare facilities. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. To start, now again, I gotta make sure I know, got everything right here. Okay. This should be it. Yeah. There we go. All right. The time is precious. I'm gonna dive right into it. So my background is an architect and a designer, but I got into the healthcare and wellness realm of things very early on, about 26 years ago when I joined the company. So what we try to, let's see, there you go. So we build a lot of buildings, over 5,600 to date, and over $100 billion US dollar worth of construction. It's a scary thought after listening to Carmen. We can do a lot of good, we can do a lot of harm. Right now, I'm in Dallas, Texas, which is our headquarters, but most of the time I'm in Singapore. Some of the project we do, this way I have a reason why we're sharing this: civic, cultural, commercial, education, government, a lot of hospitality, residential, big buildings. The latest building that we did, big stadium, excuse me. The latest stadium that we did is the LA stadium. It's all outdoor. No more indoors. The weather is so beautiful. Everything is outdoor and fresh air. So, like I said, this is a very, let me see if I can do this. There we go. We can do a lot of good and we can do a lot of harm. And the company here, we have decided we're not going to hurt people and give people asthma. So here's why we think about well-being in design. It's really a sense of responsibility. It's not, I can promise you, it has nothing to do with profit. It's just that all of us as architect and designer, we don't get into this business to harm people. We want to shape the environment. When we started working, for me about, late 80s and early 90s, we were told, first, do no harm. And that's not good enough anymore. Right now, we're at a place where we want to have a positive environmental impact, responsible design, and a regenerative design. Carmen covered a lot of it. I was smiling because we practically have the same presentation. Now, this is based on US data, might be a little bit different, a little bit off, but 90% of our time we spend indoors. And Carmen has the same, it's giving me goosebumps. You have the same quote from Winston Churchill. We shape our buildings and afterwards our buildings shape us. I was paying full attention to your presentation, Carmen. But let's look at it in real terms. What does it mean, 90%? I'm 52 years old. I've spent 45 years indoors. That's a lot. Okay. So here's another data that parallel to what Carmen just said. Staff costs, including salaries and benefits, typically cost about 90%. All this is based on US data. And a happy workplace is vital. So if you look at investing on people with a healthy building, what would that bring? Now, remember the 3, 30, and 300 rules of thumb. So if you're spending $3 per square foot on your utilities, $30 on rent, but $300 on payroll, just by achieving 2% of increase of productivity, look at this right here, you're saving $6 per square foot. We've talked about LEED, sustainability, but for energy improvement, you really just showed for 2% energy improvement is only 60 cents per square foot, but invest in your people, you have higher return. Some other data, better the air quality, increase productivity. Keep everybody dehydrated. Depression is lowered. Again, it's Carmen's presentation in a different form, so I'm not gonna repeat everything. But something that is pretty compelling right now is, even with COVID, it doesn't stop the trend, it actually helps accelerate the trend. Currently, for WELL certification, there are about 5,000 projects, over 782 million square feet applying for WELL certification across 66 countries. And within Asia, we're seeing a lot happening in Vietnam, Singapore, and Japan. And here are some of the, including Carmen's, some of the other WELL certified buildings. So that's all I have today. Basically echoing the previous presentation, and also want to stress that we want to design better building, but we need tools like what you're seeing here today in a few more minutes, in a few moments, that will help us do a better job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Angela. Again, a beautiful presentation with real data about the amazing returns that we get from doing it right. Excellent. Thank you so much. We will now move straight away to the panel discussion, and we can address questions from the audience later. We have an amazing lineup of panelists. In the interest of time, I will not do any long introductions. We have a lot of similarities today. Angela, I'm just a couple of months older than you. And Ivan, we are both Botak, Kalbo, and I'm looking forward to all of your contributions. We have the men lined up for the panel now. We have Jack Noman, the VP for APAC of the International Well Building Institute. We have Ivan Sunito, the Group CEO and Chairman of Ground Group, originally from Indonesia, now residing in Australia. And then for our Filipinos, a well-known figure in the local scene, Raymond Rufino, the CEO of NEO offices in the Philippines. We welcome all of you, and we are looking forward to your opinions on the subject of wellness in buildings. And I would want to ask that question: will healthy buildings be the norm for the built environment of the future? Maybe we'll start off with Jack giving us your view on the subject. Then we will hand over to Ivan and Raymond, all of you coming up with your 2 to 3 minutes elevator pitch. What will be the future of this topic in our industry?
Excellent. Can you hear me, Matthias?
Yes, perfect. Thanks, Jack.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the organizers for having me. A warm welcome so I'm getting a little bit of background noise. Oh, that's better. A warm welcome from a very cold Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, as I mentioned, thank you for having me. I do think that healthy buildings are the way of the future. They need to be the way of the future. Unfortunately, it has taken a global pandemic for many of us to realize that fact, but we cannot let as we've heard, we cannot let a good crisis go to waste, and we need to ensure that health and well-being is fundamental to the design, the operations, and the maintenance of our buildings. So, as Matthias mentioned, I work for the International Well Building Institute. I've been speaking about healthy buildings for the last 12 to 15 years, but what we've seen is a significant shift. We've seen a shift, and I think Angela mentioned this, that we've traditionally focused on doing less bad, and that's no longer good enough. We need to focus on ways that we can do more good, and ways in which we can help people thrive. And we do this fundamentally through the Well Building Standard, which I think all of you have had an amazing introduction to, thanks to Carmen already. But one thing that I wanted to emphasize is that what we're starting to see is more of a comprehensive view around health and well-being. So you can no longer have a healthy building that just focuses on air quality or just focuses on water quality. When we think about health and well-being, we need to think about health and well-being in a comprehensive view. So we're thinking about the physical, the social, and the mental aspects of health and well-being. So we're thinking about materials, but we're also thinking about mental health. We're thinking about water, and we're thinking about air quality as well. So we really need to think about health and well-being in a holistic lens. And I think that this has been a significant shift over the last 12 to 18 months around what people think about when they think about a healthy building. And it's really important that we continue to have pioneers like Menarco Tower and the work that Carmen and others are doing around Southeast Asia to basically show what that looks like. The other thing that I wanted to mention in relation to the healthy buildings movement is that it will be for nothing if we don't have a focus on equity. We can't continue to have healthy buildings just for the few and not for the many. We can't have the Well Building Standard being seen as something that is healthy for the wealthy. It needs to be equitable in nature. So once again, this is why it's so important to have pioneers like Carmen and other and Raymond as well, who's recently had some amazing achievements with the Well Health Safety Rating, being able to demonstrate that this is possible in countries like the Philippines, that this is possible throughout Southeast Asia. If we are only being able to demonstrate that this is something that can be done in Melbourne, Australia, or in New York City, we've failed. Because what we need to do is we need to show that health is equitable as well, and that it is your human right. The third point that I wanted to mention in relation to this healthy buildings movement is that it needs to be performance-based. And we need, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but somebody mentioned earlier that you can't manage what you don't measure. And we need to be measuring our buildings better. We need to, you know, often we have this conversation in Australia and in the US and England or the UK where we're saying that it's best practice to measure the air quality within your building. It shouldn't be best practice. It should be normal practice. It should be standard practice for every single building to be measuring the air quality within their building, to be measuring the water quality that is coming out of their tap. So unless we're actually focusing on performance and unless we're validating that performance, I think that we're really just only touching the surface around this healthy buildings movement. So they're the 3 points that I wanted to emphasize: the fact that a healthy building needs to be comprehensive, it needs to be equitable, and it needs to be focused on performance. I really see that as being the future of healthy buildings.
All right, great, Norman. 3 very powerful points there. I see everybody nodding. And Ivan, over to you. What is your view on the subject?
Matthias, I do have some point, but if you don't mind me sharing very quickly a video that kind of wraps up did a lot of the thinking from Carmen, Angela, and Jack Noonan also. This is probably a project that we have just completed in Sydney. It's I probably need my technical assistant to help me to share this video. Can you see what I see in the screen?
Yeah.
Is that visible by everybody?
Yes.
Yes, do you see the video? Good. Okay. I think the COVID-19 and during this COVID-19 matters that we have, a lot more people are realizing that a building have to not just to focus on creating a sustainable building, but we have to start thinking about a sustainable living. It's things that we do, and we need to do it even better. In Sydney, in Australia, we do have what we call a basic guideline in some of making the building more passively responsible rather than actively promoting the building. For instance, we will have 70% of our building must have a minimum of 2 hours sunlight, and about 70% of our building or our apartment within a complex must have a crossover ventilation. So it kind of governs a certain style. Now, this also, to some extent, is actually similar to what we do in Asia, because the weather that we have in Asia naturally is quite hot, right? We don't rely so much on air conditioning in the past because it's quite expensive. But so naturally, a lot of building in Singapore, Malaysia, part of the Asia world have to naturally flow with crossover. But in places like Australia, we don't tend to do that in the past. But in the past, probably 1 decade, we're starting to introduce a lot of these basic requirement that requires building to be designed passively with the right orientation, the right size, the right depth of building. For instance, living room in the apartment complex cannot be more than 7 meters to the kitchen, because anything more than that is starting to be quite dark. And we're trying to avoid buildings that are kind of having a dead corner because it smells and that are collected in that space there. In hotel nowadays, I think you know how the benefit and the value of fresh air, especially if you have to be locked down in 14 days in a hotel without fresh air, that's a nightmare. I just came from this 4-point hotel, 25 square meter room. I mean, no windows. It was just a nightmare. So the new thinking, the COVID-19 is starting to think beyond what we used to do and making sure that the building is healthy without any interruption that we do. But we also realize that there's a lot of mental wellness that becomes an issue when people are being locked down in a complex, in an office. So I do think that we as an industry need to start thinking about creating what I call happy building. It's healthy, but happy. Somebody actually posted somewhere on Instagram that I kind of reposted that Instagram. And this person was saying, I don't know about this building that was designed by Crown Group in the city. It's called Arc by Crown Group. But this building makes me happy. And I thought for a moment, it is true that there are buildings that makes you happy, And happiness do make you healthier too, right? Because when you're depressed, you become unhealthy, but unhealthy body also can't create happiness because you're tired. But happy building creates and lift up the spirit of humankind. And then I post that and repost that, and somebody kind of add to that comment to say, we need to start engaging on the discussion about the dollar value, the economic value of happy building. Because what's the price tag? Is that $100,000? Is that a $300,000? Because if you can go home or you can go to an office excited and happy all the time, and you feel like you're home and you feel like you've come to a place, an oasis where you don't need to go anywhere else, productivity begin to increase and people want to interact a lot more. And we all know the value of when you go to a meeting when it's depressed, right? Everybody get upset. When everybody's happy, everybody just interact quite rapidly there. So we're starting to think about, I mean, in Crown Group, for instance, I am an architect by background. I mean, I graduated from New South Wales Uni, and I appreciated beautiful architecture. And great architecture that I found does not just take you to a happy happiness, but also to a spiritual enlightenment to some extent. That great architecture always takes you to a journey where you experience the building. Everywhere you turn, you kind of come to this surprise, and then it takes you to I call them a sense of elevation within the building. And in our development, for instance, we take people up to the rooftop, and we have this more egalitarian approach where everybody has view to our building. So it doesn't belong to only just the penthouse or special button for the penthouse floor. Everybody, whether they buy a 1-bedroom studio, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom or super penthouse, have the view, because there's something about height in the building that elevates and lifts up people spirit. And that's probably the reason why we don't say that we go down to the valley to pray, but people say that, let me go up to the mountain to pray. There's something about height that lifts up the spirit of human beings. So I thought maybe a short discussion of this for me is that healthy building needs to, going beyond that, it needs to respond the physical healthiness, but the mental well-being of people, but also about the spiritual enlightenment of people, where people become super creative. And I think, when people are in the space where they feel like enlightened, that's when creativity kicks in. And I think there's a bit of a study on that, right? About how our brain wave, when we are panicking, we're not creative, but when we are starting to travel, and my staff doesn't like me when I start going on holiday, because suddenly ideas just begin to flow. But the highest platform was when the brain is super slow, and that's when you kind of often ascend to a platform where you think completely outside the box, radical. So that are things that we can do moving forward in the future. But also I realized that in that waterfall building, that's kind of representing a new development that we have, where the corridor of the apartments are actually open to the air. So fresh air is important to the corridor of condo. Lights into the corridor that are oftentimes, for the sake of efficiency of our building, to get it to 85 to 88%, that you actually block the whole thing with units and the back end. But in Sydney, we are compelled to do lights on the two end. We're compelled to do cross ventilation. But then I started to think about water, the sound and how sound helps us in terms of changing our mood. For instance, sounds of loud sound create this flight or fight mood in people. We hear this loud noise and suddenly we panic, right? But there are sounds of things that are gentle, such as water, that becomes a place where we feel like we've arrived and we feel like we've settled down. So these are the sort of small things that we do. The sounds of the wind across a beautiful, vegetation within our development, instant vegetation, instant shrubs, instant gardens. It's an important aspect of development that makes building healthy, not just physically, but also in the mental, but also the spiritual well-being of our people. Over to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Ivan. That's a beautiful vision, the happiness and the spiritual elevation through the holistic approach. That's a great contribution. Raymond, over to you. Congrats as well for the Well Health and Safety rating. What is your view on the future of this topic in our industry?
Thank you so much. It's great going last because you get to hear all the wonderful input and comments from everyone here. So, and congratulations, Angela and Carmen, on those great presentations. Really well said. I agree 100% with everything you mentioned. And to Ivan and Jack and Dustin, again, whenever you're in a room or virtual event with people who share obviously the same passion and advocacy, it really gives you energy, and I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. So, when I think about the future of buildings, and I think especially as we are office developers, we are an office owner, developer, and manager in Manila in the Philippines. And this idea of what is the future of work going to look like has been a really pressing question. And there's a global debate right now on what that's going to look like. So I'll give you my own personal take on that situation, how it ties into sort of healthy buildings. So for most cities that have experienced an extended lockdown or shelter in place, what's happened to most companies is they have had to pivot and make sure that they invest in infrastructure systems and a platform that allows everyone to work remotely outside the office, right? So before, remote working was something that some businesses experimented with. But because of COVID-19, every business of a significant, I guess, size or scale has had to put that infrastructure in place. They needed to make sure that, if there's another lockdown or shelter in place called, all of their employees can continue to work for the company and the company can continue to operate. So it became a business continuity issue, right? What that means for developers like us, like me and Carmen in the future, is that more increasingly, once companies have spent for that infrastructure, once employees have tasted remote working, and that's kind of a given option, right? What has to happen for us developers now is we have to work harder. We have a huge task ahead of us to convince all of these big businesses that yes, you should come back to the office and not keep your staff working remotely. Yes, the office can be a place that can foster creativity, innovation, camaraderie, corporate culture. But in order to do that, we need to first and foremost make sure our buildings are safe and healthy. And so thank you again, everyone, for congratulating us. One of the reasons why we got the Well Health and Safety rating is precisely because of that. I think if we are to make the office a vital part of the workplace and workforce strategy for companies moving forward, at the very minimum, we have to make sure the buildings and the offices are safe, right? And if we can go beyond that and say, not only are your employees safe coming to work in these buildings, but if we can help them achieve better productivity, achieve better wellness, achieve better health. And I love what Ivan said about happiness. We are a big believer in that too. If we can eventually, at the end of it all, achieve the golden goal, I think, which is to create happy, healthy people coming to live, work, and play in our buildings. And I think that is the way that we make sure that our real estate remains relevant, remains important, and remains impactful for all of those people, right? If we fail, if we are not able to make our buildings safe and healthy for all of the employees, for all of the residents, for all of the shoppers, then what's going to happen is this theory of living in bubbles and isolation and doing things on your own and virtually will continue to grow. People will say, I can do everything that I can do from the comfort of my four walls. I will isolate myself and I will, I won't go shopping at the mall. I'll just buy online. I won't go to the office. I'll just communicate virtually through Zoom or attend conferences like this. I will not go visit my kids' school anymore and meet the other kids or parents because my kids will go to school at home. So I think it's very important that, like Jack said, it's not whether or not we want healthy buildings to be part of our future. I think it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that they are. I think real estate developers around the world will have to take on that responsibility and say, all of the buildings we have in the future need to, at the very minimum, be safe and ideally also contribute to health and well-being. So happy to start off and kick off questions. That's some 2 cents from my end. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Raymond. Maybe it was seen as a luxury in the past, and now it's an essential component for our living and operating in buildings. We are kicking off the discussion now. You can feel free as well to answer, to submit your questions in the Q&A chat box. We will have about 10 minutes for the discussion. I would like to ask one or two more contributions from the panelists. How can we make this a mass movement? I mean, there is pressure now with COVID to do it. We have heard about the amazing return on investment from Carmen, from Angela, both in terms of energy savings, but even more productivity and employee-related benefits, the health, the wellness aspects. How can we make this happen on a scale that it reaches beyond the first movers that so far have actually done it? Jack, what do you think?
It's an excellent question, Matthias, and it's something that we have been grappling with as an organization over the last couple of years. So for those of you who don't know, the International Wellbeing Institute, IWBI, was only formed about 5 years ago, but we've had very significant growth in a very short period of time. One of the reasons for that is that health is very personal to individuals, and people see health as being something that's very important to them. But what we've seen in the first 5 years is that this has really been led by developers. It's been led by organizations, to some degree by some limited governments as well. So as a result of a shifting focus, what we have recently done, which is very exciting for us as an organization, is we've launched a consumer awareness campaign. Some of you may have seen this consumer awareness campaign on your televisions. It's very much focused on the US, but we are having significant traction across Asia Pacific as well. And it features some key endorsements from the world's largest celebrities. I noticed that Raymond, when Raymond and Neo Group achieved the Well Health Safety Rating, they promoted this video. And now this video includes celebrities such as Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, Robert De Niro talking about the Well Health Safety Rating. And I think a lot of people would say, well, what do these celebrities have to do with a healthy building? And I think it's a very valid question, but what it's about is it's about creating consumer awareness and brand recognition in the fact that our buildings have an impact on our health. Many of you have heard me say this before. I trained as a geneticist. I always thought that the genes that you have were the biggest determinant of your health. In reality, it's your physical and social environment that is the #1 determinant of our health. It's incumbent on all of us to make the average consumer aware of the link between their physical and social environment to their health and well-being. If we need key voices that people listen to, whether that be Lady Gaga or Robert De Niro or the 17th Surgeon General of the United States, Richard Carmona, to talk about healthy buildings, to make the broad consumer base understand that, that's what we're going to need to do. So I think that is one way that we can get uptake in this movement, to actually make people demand this, the consumers demand this. And another thing is we really need government leadership in this area. We've seen significant government leadership around sustainability and green buildings for a long period of time. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the same level of government leadership around ideas of social sustainability and healthy buildings. I think that we're just on the verge of starting to see that leadership from governments because, once again, we're in a post-pandemic world where this is going to be incredibly important.
Just add, I think that's great, Jack. And
Great.
Congratulations on that wonderful video. That's
Contribution.
really good. Yeah, it's really good, Jack. Just to add, I think you mentioned two really important levers: the customers for the real estate and government regulation, right? And so I don't want to take anything away from my fellow owners and developers, but in the real estate industry, majority of developers are very safe, very conservative. To be quite honest, most of them will move when their customer forces them to move. We've seen this in the green building growth, right? When tenants started to demand that their office buildings would be rated or certified for green buildings. Otherwise, they won't let space or they won't take up space in that building. Office developers around the world were forced to go get their buildings certified as green buildings. I think when customers, whether it's people buying an apartment, people who are leasing space, if they demand for it, then like any good businessman, the developers will listen. The other lever, as you mentioned, is government. I think a lot of government regulation. Of course, there are those who feel that there's too much government regulation already in the real estate industry. But I think if we are trying to promote a greater good, like health and safety, I think that is very basic. I think that is something that governments should get involved in and really help push more real estate owners and developers to adopt a lot of these initiatives. So I think you hit it right on the head, Jack, with those two important levers in trying to scale this up across.
Great. Those were excellent contributions. We have a couple of more questions. I would like to ask one for Ivan here. Why are not more real estate developers, building owners, or facility managers implementing healthy buildings care about air quality? And then there is one for Carmen as well. The question, how did the uHoo device help with the well and the elite building certification? So we can have those two questions subsequent to one another.
The question more about why when developers or other people are designing more healthy or fresh building, is that probably in Sydney we have, I'm designing and developing building across in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and also USA and Indonesia. Now in USA, for instance, we were not required to design a building with a fresh air on either side of the building. So therefore you can just design building wrapping up the whole corridor with units around it. And of course it will increase greater efficiency within the building. And that is a factor of a few $1 million if you do it the Sydney way. But in terms of design and quality, of course, you know that having fresh air on either side and lights on either side does contribute to a healthier building in the building itself. So I think to some extent there's not. I think the government's got to take the lead of that. When I responded on the design, the demand of our customers today, they realized that when they're locked down, it's not just one bedroom that they need. They need a one bedroom plus study. And it's no longer a normal study, but it needs to be a proper study because now husband, wife, children has got to study from home. And during a lot of this uncertainty, and God knows how long will this lockdown, it's just on and off. In Sydney, we've been fortunate that we haven't had COVID-19 in the last probably about 2 weeks. So everybody's busy driving everywhere, but things can happen. And therefore space outside our building or the place that they lived in is also important, the area. So a lot of developers in the past are more concerned about the economic factor because every square meter that you do not sell, it contributes to dollars of return that comes to your pocket, right? Because if you turn your one bedroom or two bedroom apartment into a community space and you lose that revenue. But I've learned that that in Europe, you're better off to be the best in the industry rather than to be one of the many. In fact, the Crown Group story in Sydney grew from that $5 million capital injection 24 years ago to now developing $5 billion just simply by positioning our development to be just the best. And we're not doing it in a crazy way of building Taj Mahal in the world that nobody can afford it, because at the end of the day, there's a price point to everything. But there's nothing to be like when you're at yourself, you create your own product where there is no competition in the market, and a lot of people are looking for that product, and there's no one is delivering that product there. So I'm thinking that I think the demand of the community will compel. For instance, in USA, in the new development that we're going to have, we want to start looking at a proper co-working space within the development. Because today luxury is not about wine room. Today luxury is about co-working space. Today's luxury is not about having how big is your pool. It's about having access to the pool. Today's luxury is not about owning. Oftentimes it's about sharing. And so we're saying that children today, with the benefit of COVID-19, well, not the benefit of COVID-19, but what it has actually accelerated our industry. To some extent, there's a lot of unfortunate thing, but there's a lot of good thing that comes out of COVID-19. Somebody joked that it wasn't CEO or CFO or CIT or Chief Technology Officer, CTO, that accelerated the technological breakthrough in office, it's the COVID-19, because instantly everybody learns how to do Zoom. Everybody in Indonesia, everybody that, no matter what age they have, now are so good at doing COVID-19, Zoom conference now. Now that opens up a lot of a possibility of studying from home across and then reaching out the whole global platform now. And that's where the new innovation that we're looking at is really creating more of this beyond piano room, beyond music room. It's a place where the students, children in the development can actually connect with teachers across the world through a properly designed room that are with proper digital technology and proper lighting, sound system, and the like. So that's, I think the market will dictate it, and then I think the government's got to, like I think Raymond and Jack was saying, we need to know that our design code are often about a decade old already. Our design was still 10 years old, and we need to start accelerating this thing, because then everybody will be on the same level playing field. Because right now, you don't have to provide community space, but COVID-19 compels us to have 1 in 4 square meter zone, and we got to have space within the development. When you're locked down and there's no way to go, you do need the space outside, because otherwise you just cause a lot of depression. And now with the new trend of working from home, and I think somebody mentioned moving from that temporary to transformation. It's no longer a temporary solution to COVID-19, but it's transformation of the whole way that we work. And the wonderful thing is that you never miss any meeting now with the Zoom conference. It's on time, being on time. I think we all know, right, Carmen and Raymond, like in Asia, being on time is about 30 minutes late. In Australia, being on time is 10 minutes late. In Japan, being on time is really on time. And now with the Zoom conference, a new culture. Being on time is 1 second late, you're too late, kind of thing. So that's my response there.
Yeah. Thanks. We are forced with the innovation surrounding us, and you've been the pioneer, and the market demand followed, right? It gave you the position in the market, being the iconic leader. So great. I think we have to wrap up with that other question for Carmen, the discussion session. There are a couple of more questions. I think we'll try and collate them from uHoo's side and then respond to them in writing to all the participants. And we have as well one question that Dustin can then address. When can people order the new uHoo Aura? That's obviously a good question for you, Dustin. And Carmen, just very quickly, how did uHoo help you with the building certification?
Well, very quickly, we actually got our certification before I learned about uHoo, but because WELL is a certification where you need to keep and maintain it. I think that for our next assessment, uHoo, well, is already, a very integral part of our operations, because it does make the invisible visible. So I'm very confident that with the team that we have and the technology that is in place, we will pass with flying colors, because we will see results beforehand. Unlike before, people would fly in, do all the testing, and then after a week or 2 or 3 would tell us, okay, you didn't pass this one. So we needed to recalibrate. On that note, just as something positive regarding government in the Philippines, I just wanted to share with the Filipinos out there that Menarco, we had a chance to present to Congress, to 40 members of Congress, regarding the Healthy Building Initiative. So there is the interest to help to convert the Clean Outdoor Air Act into an Indoor Air Act. So for the Filipinos out there, I think if you just help clamor for it, it's only a matter of time where the wheel of change will begin spinning for our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen. Amazing convergence that we see here, everything coming together, private sector, forced innovation in the crisis, and government. So Dustin, over to you. You have some exciting videos to share with us, right?
Yep, that's right.
And thanks so much for the panel for such a great and amazing session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Angela, Jack, Ewan, and Raymond. Thank you for your insights and perspectives. So now it is time for the on what the product is about. So Lilette would be playing a video. Lilette, could you play the video so we can show the guests and the speakers?
Poor indoor air impacts the health and safety of your employees. It also increases the risk of coronavirus spreading in the workplace. Employees continuously exposed to various pollutants in the air are more likely to get sick, perform poorly, and miss work. Research has shown that poor indoor air costs companies at
Thank you, Lilette. All right, so I'll be sharing my screen and giving you some quick insights on some aspects and some capabilities of the new product. All right. Yeah, so this is how uHoo Aura looks like. I have it here. So it's roughly the size 6 inches by 7 inches. And the main upgrades that we've made with this new product, initially for our existing customers who use the current product, it has 9 sensors. So what we've done is we've expanded the parameters that we measure. So these are the parameters that help you comply better with the well standard and also the reset standard, because we cover the parameters that these standards require. So we really want to help you achieve these certifications. And on top of that, we also have the uHoo virus index, which we've enhanced as well further, because we now measure PM1, which would be the smaller particles, compared to just PM2.5. And we also listen to our customers in terms of how they like to deploy the product. And a lot have requested a way to mount it on the wall. So we've designed it to be mountable on the wall, and it can also be deployed on the table if you still prefer to put it on the table. And from our conversations with our commercial customers, we also understood that they don't want to always rely on the Wi-Fi network, that they would like to explore different device. And that's what we've built into the product as well. So we provide Wi-Fi capability, but this time with enterprise security, which is what a lot of our enterprise customers would like to see. And if you don't like for us to connect to your Wi-Fi network, you can just subscribe for a SIM card, slot it into the device, and you can just connect to the network as well. And the third option would be a wired connection, because a lot of the buildings today would already have Ethernet cables running around the buildings. So this Ethernet cable can also be used to connect the device online and also to connect it directly with your BMS, because some BMSs don't really have wireless connectivity or are not able to draw data from the cloud. So these apply more to the traditional buildings who want to improve the health and well-being of their people. So we would provide a wired connectivity. And since we have an Ethernet connection, that same wire can also be used to power the device. So now you have options in terms of power, whether you can plug it into the wall using a USB, or you can also power it using PoE or power over Ethernet. And if in case there are like power fluctuations inside the building or inside the office, there's also a backup battery. So it ensures that it continuously monitors your environmental quality. Not only did we enhance the hardware, we also will be releasing a new dashboard. And this came from the conversation that we've had with Carmen over the last few months, wherein how do we make sure that there is proper context around the data? So we've learned a lot from constant interactions with Carmen and a lot of our customers that we want to be able to put more context on the data, not just on the engineering side, but also on the business side. So this is where we came up with the air quality index, the discomfort index, the productivity index, the energy index, the health and safety index, and the sustainability index. This is about combining the different parameters of data that we have to give you an assessment on how you fare in terms of, let's say, how you're improving your air quality with respect to the productivity of your occupants. And how are you able to save more energy when you optimize, let's say, your ventilation with respect to people and occupants inside the building. So it's combining these different parameters to create more context around your data. And the value that we really provide to all of our customers is still goes back to the health and productivity of people, helping you achieve sustainability certifications such as the WELL standard or the RESET or the LEED standard, and also help you to get more ROI on your properties in terms of being able to create more value and differentiation to your tenants. And of course, the last aspect would be on energy savings. It's optimizing the building to make it greener. And so right now, what we saw was how the product looks like on an office level. But what if we view it from a building-wide level? How does it apply to an entire property? So Lilette will show you another video on how uHoo Aura would apply to an entire building. So the idea for uHoo Aura is not just to enhance the health and well-being on an office level, but we want to make sure that when we deploy this, it benefits everybody on the building level. So it's everybody. It also helps you automate the entire building, make it smarter, greener, and healthier. So yeah, and then when it comes to the question on when people can order, we already accept pre-orders today, and we shipment starts in April. So over to you, Matthias.
Amazing. Wow. Beautiful innovations. I'm so much looking forward to it. Wealth is health. I bought my first uHoo when my baby daughter was born. And this is continuing the journey with even more features, with a productivity index. I think that will be so amazing for companies, for buildings who use it. I think what we have learned today is the case studies are there. The return is there. Actually, you are losing out if you don't do it. That is the big message that I've picked up today. There is no more excuse. We have to build health and wellness into the core of all of our buildings, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, to bring as well Jack's equity dimension here into the discussion, even with the spiritual enlightenment coming from getting it right. That's what we need for the sake of our mental health, for the sake of our productivity, for the sake of future generations. I learned a lot today. I'm inspired. Now it's time for networking. Thanks, Angela, Carmen, Ivan, Jack, Raymond, and Dustin for amazing contributions. I loved it. I learned so much. And let's connect. This is the idea behind this app. We can actually meet the people on our table. Maybe you can even meet myself. Try and find me. Looking forward to network. The space will still be open until 12. Thanks so much, everyone. This was a great launch of the new uHoo Aura. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.